This is a 2018 Toyota Land Cruiser and it costs $85,000. Yes, that's right. Toyota, the same company that makes a $25,000 RAV4 SUV, also makes an $85,000 luxury SUV that costs more than almost every SUV from Mercedes-Benz and Land Rover and BMW. Today, I'm going to explain why. I've borrowed this Land Cruiser from a viewer here in the San Diego area, and yes, this car starts at around $85,000. Toyota's online configurator officially says $86,060 with shipping. So how do you justify spending $85,000 on a Toyota SUV? What makes this thing worth so much money? You could buy 2.5 Highlanders for the price of this. It's all about durability. The Highlander is a great family car for the suburbs. Take your kids to soccer practice, but the Land Cruiser can literally go anywhere and it can literally do anything. And it can give you a luxury experience while you're getting there. A little history. The Land Cruiser first came out decades ago and the original one looked like a Jeep. Eventually it was refined in the 1980s, then it was refined again in the 1990s, and then it was refined again in the 2000s. And then eventually they got to this. And this is truly one of the most capable and durable vehicles on the road. It's often said that most automakers engineer their parts to last 10, maybe 15 years, whereas everything on the Land Cruiser is overbuilt and designed to last for 25 years. That means you should be able to be driving this thing around in 2043 without it really wearing out all that much. And it also means you should be able to get into a 1993 Land Cruiser and have most things still working, which frankly is true if you've ever tried to buy a used 1990s Land Cruiser and you've seen how expensive and how sought after they still are. And it's more than just that. The Land Cruiser is tremendously reliable, yes, but it's also immensely capable. It can go basically everywhere because it has every off-roading extra and accessory you could want directly from the factory. And it's incredibly luxurious with basically every luxury feature and amenity you could possibly want. Basically, it has everything and it's ready to go anywhere. If you were to ask me to pick one car to take a trip around the world or to drive to the Arctic Circle or to ride out a hurricane, I wouldn't even hesitate. Give me a Land Cruiser and let's get going. And with that in mind, today I'm going to take you on a tour of the most capable, durable new car on Earth. I'm going to show you all of the interesting quirks and features of the 2018 Land Cruiser, and then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a Doug score. And for more of my thoughts on the Land Cruiser, click the link below to visit autotrader.com/oversteer, where I've also rounded up a list of the most expensive cars built by normal mainstream automakers. Now I want to start the quirks and features with the discussion of probably the Land Cruiser's biggest quirk, and that is its simplicity and some of the more simple, durable features you'll find on this car that are a little unusual for its $85,000 price point. And I want to start under the hood. What you see here is a 5.7 liter V8, 380 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. There is no turbocharging in this engine like there is in so many other cars. There's no diesel, there's no hybrid, there's no plug-in hybrid. You just get a big old naturally aspirated V8 because it lasts a long time. So that's what you put in a car that is designed to last a long time. Styling is another example of the Land Cruiser's focus on simplicity. This car's mechanical twin, the Lexus LX 570, takes a shall we say, different styling approach, to put it charitably. The Land Cruiser, on the other hand, is just more subtle, more restrained. If you were driving next to this car, behind this car on the road, and you didn't know, you would just assume you're next to another Toyota. And in talking to people who own these, that's one of the things that they like best. It's a really nice car, but it just blends in. And that simplicity is carried over to several items in the interior, the most obvious of which is the parking brake. Almost every car at this price point has an electronic parking brake, but this thing still has the old school parking brake lever, like in an old car from the 1990s. It is unbelievably surprising to see that in an $85,000 vehicle. But one thing you can promise about this parking brake versus an electronic one, it isn't going to break. And there are other examples of it all throughout the car. For instance, you can see the clock in the center still uses that old 1980s clock font instead of a nice new LCD screen. Toyota has put in a couple of LCD screens because you have to in modern times with modern vehicles, especially at this price point, but the stuff you actually need, the clock and the climate control temperature, is this old simple clock font that Toyota has developed so that it won't break. Same with the odometer. There is a full color screen in the gauge cluster, but the odometer itself is just this old school screen that seems to last forever in Toyotas going back decades. And same deal with the gear lever. The gear lever in most cars at this price point has become like a little electronic push button thing that you move and tap in certain ways and it goes into gear. This thing, it's this big old lever, you pull it into gear. It might not look good, but it's functional, it's simple, and again, it works. So that's what the Land Cruiser has. Now, with all this said, I don't want to make it seem like this car has no amenities. For $85,000, you are paying a lot of money, and so you are getting a lot of stuff. Now, for instance, this car has a 360-degree camera, top-down view, just like you would expect from a car at this price point. It also has all the other modern safety features that you would want and, frankly, sort of expect from a car at this price point. For instance, it has radar cruise control, so it'll slow down and speed up depending on the speed of the car in front of you, automatic braking if you're about to get in an accident, it has a blind spot monitor, it has lane departure warning, all that stuff that most cars are adding nowadays, the Land Cruiser has as well. Another cool feature this car has, you've heard of automatic climate control where you just set a desired temperature and then the system does the rest to get the interior at the exact temperature you want. Well, this car has automatic climate control seats. You turn on the seats, heated or cooled, and it does whatever is necessary to get the seat temperature to your exact liking. That is a pretty nice luxury touch. Also, in terms of features, one of the most important things to talk about with this car is the off-roading features because it has a ton of them. It has locking differentials, it has low-range gearing, and it has my favorite item, crawl control. Now, I did a video a long time ago where I off-roaded one of these, the latest Land Cruiser, and I'm going to link that video below so you can see this stuff in action. But basically, a simple explanation of crawl control is it's like cruise control when you're off-roading. It senses the terrain you're on, and you can choose exactly what speed you want to go, and it will basically crawl at that speed, knowing that it's on rocks, and so it has to be a little more careful. The really cool thing about crawl control, though, is it can basically get the car unstuck. I've seen videos online where they've buried these things in sand up to the hubs, and crawl control has these sensors that send exactly the right amount of power to the wheels in order to sort of lift the car up from being stuck and drive away. It's a lot better than you kind of flooring it with the gas pedal and just kind of hoping the car digs itself out. Next up, moving on to a couple of other interesting quirks in the interior. One interesting item in this interior that I absolutely hate is adjusting the airflow and the climate controls. This car is all about simplicity, and so it's easy to change the temperature as just an old school button. It's also easy to change where the air is coming out, etc. The one thing you can't change with a button, though, is how much air is coming out. To do that, you have to press climate, then go into the screen, and then you can adjust the airflow. This is a big mistake. Frankly, I think Toyota should have just put a little button down here somewhere that allows you to manually adjust the airflow without having to go into the screen. Other interesting items in the interior of the Land Cruiser, back to the old school parking brake. How about the fact that the parking brake has a little leather boot on the bottom of it, and that little leather boot has a zipper on it, which seems a little bit odd. Hey, can you unzip my parking brake, please? I admit I have seen some parking brake zippers in old school cars, but not in a modern one that costs $85,000. Another interesting item with the Land Cruiser is its key. Now, for years, the Land Cruiser used the same key as basically every other Toyota, which frankly is a little unbecoming of the expensive luxury car the Land Cruiser has turned into. Now, it finally has a nicer key, and if you flip it over, it says Land Cruiser on the back with little tire treads to emphasize the fact that you can take this off-road, and that key is the start of your journey. Another cool feature of the Land Cruiser is that the center console is cooled. The climate vents actually come into here, and they can keep cool whatever you have. If you go pick up a sandwich and you want to keep it cool, or water bottles, whatever. And a very cool feature of this is the fact that it is completely silent, even at max cool. Check this out. Right now it's silent inside the car, but you open it up and it's max cooling whatever you have in there. Close it again and Again, it's silent. You don't hear it on at all, but when you open it, you can hear that it is doing its job and keeping cool whatever you need to be kept cool.